The courtroom went completely silent the moment Marcus Thompson pulled out a small brown paper bag. It wasn't because he dared to eat during his own hearing. It was because of what was inside. A single granola bar and a small juice box, the kind meant for a child's lunch. That quiet moment shifted the entire atmosphere in the room, turning what seemed like a routine case into something far deeper. I had been sitting on that bench for decades, believing I had seen every kind of story a courtroom could offer. But Marcus's situation quickly challenged that belief. He stood there, not defensive, not angry, just exhausted. His clothes were worn but carefully maintained, his posture humble yet dignified. Everything about him reflected a man doing his best to survive under pressure most people would never fully understand. The charges against him were straightforward on paper. 17 violations of street vendor regulations over 6 months, each carrying a fine. The total had now reached thousands of dollars, a number that seemed impossible for someone like him to pay. The prosecutor presented the facts clearly, emphasizing that Marcus had repeatedly broken the law, despite warnings. When asked if he understood the charges, Marcus simply said yes. There were no excuses, no arguments, no attempts to shift blame. That alone made him different from most people who stood in that courtroom. His honesty created a pause, forcing everyone to look beyond the surface of the case. As the questioning continued, it became clear that Marcus had tried to follow the rules. He had applied for permits multiple times, only to be denied due to zoning restrictions. Yet, the locations he chose weren't random. They were the only places that fit within the narrow window of time between his multiple jobs and his responsibilities as a father. That was when the deeper story began to unfold. Marcus explained that he worked 3 jobs just to stay afloat. He worked nights as a security guard, spent his mornings driving for a rideshare service, and operated a small food cart in the afternoon. Every minute of his day was accounted for, every dollar carefully calculated. When asked about his family, his voice shifted slightly. He had 3 young children, and their mother had passed away from illness. From that moment, the case stopped feeling like a simple legal matter and started to feel like a glimpse into a life filled with quiet struggle and relentless responsibility. The courtroom grew heavier with every detail. Marcus wasn't just breaking rules for convenience. He was navigating an impossible situation. Every decision he made was part of a delicate balance between earning enough to survive and being present for his children. Then came a question that seemed simple, but revealed everything. When asked about his daily routine and when he ate, Marcus admitted that he often didn't. That's when he revealed the contents of the bag he had brought with him. The snack wasn't even meant for him. It belonged to his child. He had taken it because he had nothing else. That small moment spoke louder than any argument. It showed a man who was sacrificing his own basic needs to keep his family going. It wasn't negligence. It was survival. Looking deeper into his case, a pattern emerged. All of his violations occurred during a specific time window. It was the exact period when he was trying to maximize his earnings before picking up his children from school. Every citation represented a decision between financial stability and being present for his kids. The numbers told a harsh truth. The fines were not just penalties. They were pushing him closer to losing everything. If he couldn't pay, he risked losing his ability to work. Without work, he couldn't support his family. And without that support, his children could be taken into the system. At that point, the case was no longer about regulations. It became a question of consequences. What would truly happen if the law was enforced without flexibility? Would justice be served, or would it create a much larger problem? The realization was clear. Punishing Marcus in the traditional way would not solve anything. It would only deepen the crisis. The system would spend far more dealing with the fallout than it would ever gain from the fines. So instead of focusing only on the violation, the decision shifted toward a solution. Marcus was held accountable, but in a way that allowed him to rebuild rather than collapse. He was given structured responsibilities, a path to repay his debt, and most importantly, a chance to continue supporting his children. That decision changed everything. Marcus didn't waste the opportunity. He worked, he improved, and he proved that when given the right support, people can rise above even the most difficult circumstances. Over time, his life stabilized. He found better work, regained balance, and became a stronger presence in his children's lives. What started as a courtroom case turned into a story of transformation. But the impact didn't stop with him. His journey inspired changes that extended beyond one individual. It showed that justice doesn't always mean punishment. It can also mean creating a path forward. In the end, what mattered most was not the fines or the violations, but the outcome. A family stayed together. A father kept his role. Children grew up with stability instead of uncertainty. That is what real justice looks like, not just enforcing rules, but understanding the human reality behind them.